Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey, welcome. We're so glad you're here. So here's the deal. So Karl and I are not just business friends. We're actually real life friends. I know that sounds magical to a lot of you because he is a bit of a unicorn. But as you can clearly tell, we like to joke around. We like to have some fun. So please, if, we're here to educate, but also to entertain you. So please keep that in mind. We're not here to try and offend you. We'll just naturally do that just by speaking. And that's just how we are. How's that?
Well done, Road Dog. Well done. There you go, folks. Right. They're not going to be expecting much. They're going to expect poor Diana. She's worried about getting insulted here.
A limbo contest, that bar is actually quite high to make sure that Karl can just walk straight through it without even having to tilt his neck. So, in other words, 5'3". All right. On that note,
I'm getting shorter every week, Shoots, by the way.
Well, Father Time is not good. Plus, you're doing all this skiing. I'm sure you're jumping off of little tiny jumps, and it's compressing your knees, your bones, and your spine a little bit more. You'll be 4'10" by Christmas. Don't even worry about it.
Oh, good. You're an idiot. Let's go, Shoots. Let's go.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. Your boy Road Dog here with the man, the myth, the legend, the unicorn on skis, Mr. Karl Bryan, live in action today. Big Shoots. How are you, my friend?
Road Dog, I'm doing good, buddy. What's happening your way, my man?
Just living my best life, as my wife would say. I'm not sure if she's like where that is going and if she's sarcastic when she's saying that, but I'm going to go ahead and just say I'm living my best life. How about you? What's
well
going on?
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I did the skiing on the weekend. Shoots. Been doing lots of skiing, man. I got to tell you. Get calling me Steve Podborski out there. If you don't know who Steve Podborski is.
Are you training for the Olympics? Or are you training for the Olympics, or what's happening?
You never know, Shoots. You never know. I'm pretty good, man. Pretty good on those skis.
To the Olympics for skiing, which one would be your discipline?
Which one would be moguls? I don't know if you're asking me a serious question, but
seriously.
But at this age, moguls are a little harder on the body. But that would be my Olympic sport, Road Dog.
Well,
there you go, Shoots.
You're that close to the ground to begin with. I guess it's just an absorption technique.
It's like at a distinct advantage, Road Dog. There you go. My height can be used to my advantage doing something. Anyway,
do you still call it height when it's below 5'3"? Like, is that still a term?
We just did the pre-show, and Road Dog, he keeps making me every week. He's making me shorter and shorter. But, anyways, there you go. There you go. Let's go.
All right. First up, let's get to something you would know like the back of your hand. All right. The question. I like how you've described inflection points with bigger companies. Can you give me an example of an inflection point you've had or how you look to create them with a client to elevate them? So do you want to first touch on what you mean by inflection point before we start diving into this?
Yeah. Okay. I like that question. There you go. Look at this. Okay, yeah, so everybody's clear. Like when you reverse engineer massive success, you'll see that there are clear turning points, or in this instance, inflection points. And you can tell a lot about success, or maybe more to the point, you could manufacture them in the future if you knew where they were. So maybe some examples. Okay, so like Shark Tank, I would imagine if you're listening to this, you're probably a fan of, Mark Cuban and all the folks on Shark Tank. When they originally did the show, people who would apply automatically had to give 5% equity of their company to the producers, like to the show, right? Well, and the argument was that the amount of exposure they were about to get, they were going to put them on TV, right? Like the 5% was going to be well and truly worth it. Well, the problem is that stopped legit opportunities or legit businesses from coming on, because either they didn't want to give away 5% because they didn't know if that would be, worth it. And in many cases, they already had investors in place. And how would your investors feel if you were just giving away 5% of the company when they went and tipped in, 100 grand, 500 grand, a million, or whatever the case may be, right? So basically what happened is that would stop legit opportunities from coming on. And if you watch the show, obviously, like, they got some mom and pop stuff, but, you also want to be watching, a proper business show with proper, business opportunities, et cetera. So what they did is, well, in season 4, they stopped that. And basically that was an inflection. But if you understand Shark Tank, and I followed the show for a long time, know it pretty well. Basically in season 4, when they stopped that, that was an inflection point. Next thing you know, they went to the moon, and now it's the show that we now know, right? I've actually talked about this in the past, but like McDonald's had an inflection point where they realized they weren't looking for quote unquote investors. They were looking for husband-wife teams. That was like their ideal franchisee. Things went to the moon. And by the way, when you watch the movie, you can literally see it played out there. Also, and this one's pretty famous, but when Ray Kroc realized that he was in the real estate game as opposed to the McDonald's selling burgers, 10-cent burgers or whatever they were. And again, those can both be seen in the movie The Founder, which I've watched many, many, many a times. Love it. It's good. And Facebook had an inflection point when they put relationship status, and then you could tag friends. Like there's a picture, and Road Dogg and I are in a photo, someone else's profile, and then I could tag Road Dogg. Basically that was an inflection point. So, okay, but let's get a little more granular, with a business owner. So inflection point with a business owner. Well, okay, so I'd identify the top 3 revenue generating opportunities. And I got to tell you, there'll almost never be more than 3. And if there are, you just take the best 3 because you got to make sure you keep them focused. But what you do is you really, drill down and focus on those 3 revenue producing activities, right? That might not sound revolutionary to anybody listening, but I got to tell you, I don't need to meet your business owner or your coaching client to know that they've never taken the time to drill down, have a look at those 3, and then think, okay, well, let's stop everything else, revenue generating wise, and just really focus on these 3, right? It can be, quite frankly, revenue magic, and it can happen really, really quick. Inflection points. In fact, I think it was last week or the week before, we talked about luxury goods. Again, you can only get luxury margins with luxury goods, right? So an example that I gave recently, Apple has got Ferrari margins, but they've got Toyota production, okay? And hence why they're the most profitable business on the planet. The reason they are so profitable, yes, the iPhone, you're probably listening to this right now on your iPhone, right? So, but the real reason that they are so successful is the margins that they make on those phones and on Apple products, because they turned it into a luxury brand, is just gobsmacking. It's so your client, I don't need to meet them to know that you say, hey, let's raise your prices. And what do? Oh my gosh, I'll lose all my clients. If your client offers a 10% discount, they have to sell 33% more to break even. And then I want to think of your average client, your average business owner. They don't give 10% discounts. They give 25% discounts, not realizing the harm that they're doing. The most difficult function of any business is generating a lead and making a sale. So therefore, they're making their job so much more challenging, right? So that would be understanding that principally, and then just, moving towards premium pricing and more value, as opposed to how can we become cheaper than the competition, which they all seem to live in that world. That can be a big needle mover. Inflection. I think hiring somebody, they really go to the next level. But there's a saying, reasons come first, answers come second. In other words, let's say I'm listening, a coach is listening, and we're like, you've got to hire somebody. What do they say? They say, well, I'll hire somebody when they're ready. Okay. You'll never be ready. your client will never be ready. That's not the way it works. The trick is to just do it, and then the business will magically grow as a result of bringing somebody on. Again, understand, reasons come first, answers come second. Hire somebody, there's your reason, and then the new business will magically flow. And if it doesn't, you can always let that person go, right? Not the end of the world, but that definitely an inflection point when they start to, hire people. Maybe complementary to that is like, hey, like, let's say that somebody's listening and they're like they're a salesperson, a real creative type, right? Maybe, and people don't like to think of themselves in that way. They think of themselves more of a visionary type. Okay, well, hire analytical people to help you and kind of clean up your messes behind you. That's what I personally do. I'm very big picture. I'm big picture, big times. What I do is I all the people in behind me, the vast majority of them are analytical, and think engineer, think mathematician, think analytical accountant type, right? And you've got to bring somebody on though that's strong enough, to say no and to disagree with you. Again, a mistake they sometimes make is that bring somebody on and it's not somebody strong enough, and then that doesn't necessarily go in the right direction. Or maybe another example, inflection point. Like, think of this from a psychological point of view. Like, start hiring people to do the $10 work, or maybe again, psychologically, stop doing the $10 work. Like, hire a cleaner to come clean your house. And during that hour, instead of, don't put your feet up and watch ESPN and the football game or what have you, take that time, be very, very disciplined. Okay. And read books about minimizing your tax position, or, read a book about taxes. I've often said, well, not only have I said, absolute fact, that the number one expense in your life, my life, Road Dog's life, everybody we know's life is taxes. The problem is they haven't spent 15 seconds after studying taxes because, quite frankly, they're scared of it, right? Then they give all their money to the government, right? Or maybe it's sales for you. You got to become a better salesperson. Read a book on sales. You could also, like, if you do a lot of driving throughout the day, discover Uber and start taking an Uber everywhere you go instead of driving, and you sit in the back and work. You've got your laptop, or take that time to do some, thinking time and that sort of thing, or, doing your laundry. Hire somebody to do that stuff. It's $10 an hour work. Imagine how happy your wife will be, and maybe it's your husband, but the case will be, right? But don't sit and watch football. Use that time effectively as an entrepreneur to grow. That can be very telling. Again, it's think and go rich. It's not, run Facebook ads and grow rich. It's, think and grow rich. Take time to think. Inflection points. There's so many. Like, I remember I had a buddy one time, and he said to me, Karl, he had a girlfriend at the time, and he was planning on proposing. They might have even been engaged, actually. I can't remember, but it was a girlfriend, and they were soon to be wife. And she said at some stage something to the effect of, look, it's either me or the business, because I'm so sick of how hard you work. And, I want you to become like a normal, whatever she referred to as normal. And I said something to the effect of, tell her you're really going to miss her, right? I got to tell you that. And yes, that's harsh. And for anybody listening that's all upset, A, get over it. But B, I'm not saying it from that standpoint. I just tell you the most important financial decision that you will make will be the decision of your spouse, right? When marriages break up, wealth evaporates. I mean, I think Tony Robbins, I don't remember, don't quote me on these numbers, but I think it would cost him like 42 million. And then I think it was $1 million a year for like 18 years. So what's that? 42, 18, $60 million it cost him. And most of which that is after tax, by the way. And again, good example, bad example. Look, your client's not going to be looking at those types of numbers, but without doubt, being very, very cautious with who it is that you're going to, be married to is a very, very important business decision, or financial decision, especially as an entrepreneur, because we know that business isn't just some smooth ride, and that includes Gates and Bezos and Zuckerberg and anybody else you want to put in there. You need to have somebody behind you that believes in you and will help push. Inflection point. You guys, if you listen to me at all, my the influencers. When you stop listening to the quote unquote influencers, again, multiple streams of income. It's a way to sell you a book or a bad program, right? If don't listen to me, Bezos, Gates, Zuckerberg, they built one stream of income, right? If you're an entrepreneur, build one stream of income, and then the number that I put on it is $5 million of revenue. Once you got a $5 million business, then you can consider something that might look like multiple streams of income. But you introduce me to somebody with multiple streams of income, I'll introduce you to somebody with, very moderate and unimpressive streams of income, right? Or passive income. Again, it's a great way to sell you a book. In fact, I just had recently a toilet. Somebody was putting tampons in a toilet in one of my basement suites, and guess what? The thing leaked all over the place. Didn't feel very passive when the phone comes. You got to get a hold of the plumber, fix it. They got to move out. There's crap everywhere. Not a lot of fun. Bottom line, passive income. Yes, it does exist, but it's more designed to sell you something that you probably don't want to buy. So don't fall for it. Is what I'm saying. Grab yourself a shovel instead of passive income, and you'd be a little bit better off. Do what you love and make millions of dollars. Again, that's the kind of advice given from somebody who's made a ton of money. High ticket sales, you'd be better to say recurring revenues. I've covered all this stuff before. You guys get the idea. Just stop scrolling through your Facebook feed and falling, for the best or, the bit of advice. Buy the cheapest house on the street. You know what I mean? Good advice, bad advice. I tell you, I bought the most expensive house in the entire suburb, right? Good idea, bad idea. I don't know. It's not for everyone by any stretch, but I can assure you that by, being very proud of my home and having, enough room that I can go work and they could be having a rave party upstairs and I could be tucked away, because I like to work from home, by the way. That's important. I've done it for decades. So this is the way I like to do it. By having that, it's I wasn't going to buy the cheapest house on the street, right? But by the way, that might be the right advice for some, and it might be the wrong advice for others. Be careful just to take this black and white statement and then go with it, right? I can't say this, and again, Road Dog, I think that I covered this recently, and I apologize, guys. I do a number of group calls per week, so if we've gone over this recently, but I'm going to go over it again, and it's that important that you should listen to this, but that's establishing break even with your client. It's so boring, and it's so, you're going to have to manage their psychology because there's no, running of Facebook ads, kind of sexy, delusional manner to it. But here's the magic. Your clients got gross and net margins. Let's assume that they're 20% net and 50% gross. If you don't understand that too well, A, you should study it and understand it. But B, don't worry about it. The bottom line is that if you get a client that does $1 million and their break even is $600,000, okay, and they got 20 and 50% margins on the 600,000, they make 20% profit. Okay, so that's before break even. That means $600,000, they make $120,000 of earnings / profit. Okay. Now on the $400,000, they're making 50% margins, which means they're profiting $200,000 on the $400,000 that they earned above the $600,000. So the moral of the story is control expenses, right? And this is more about psychology than anything else, right? Like the eighth wonder of the world is that expenses will have a way of creeping up towards revenue. That's for your business. That's for my business. That's for every business. So when your client starts bragging about their expenses that they've managed to control and the money that they're making with gross profit margins instead of net profit margins, that can be an inflection point on freaking steroids, right? But again, you'll have to manage their psychology because there's nothing sexy about finding their break even or controlling their expenses for the average bear. You've got to try and educate them to the level where it does become very, very sexy, because this is how they can start buying, the 6 Series BMWs, etc., with absolutely, no concern whatsoever. It's like a business owner will tell you at some stage that they really started to make some money, and and the money really started to hit the bank account and stay. And it's not like all of a sudden it rains, it pours. What happened is that they've been in business long enough, they've established a break even, they're now controlling their expenses, or their expenses are automatically controlled because they just got to the point where, like those things are controlled, and they're making gross profit margins. Anyway, so that is an important one. And yet I would just say mastery. And if you follow my stuff, you know that I talk about this all the time. But the goal is not to compete, Road Dogg and I, to compete with one another, for us to try and, go compete with Tony Robbins or Mark Cuban or whoever else. The goal is to compete with yourself, and everyday improvements create a compounding effect. And it's mind-numbingly amazing. Like money compounds, so does your knowledge. So accepting a life of mastery where you do small incremental improvements, I think is magic. So there you go, Road Dogg. A little bit inflection points. There's a few. There's lots. I love the question, and I hope that folks will start reverse engineering success and really looking for it.
It's interesting too. You mentioned flexing on the size of your house. Real nice placement there, Big Shades. Hey, with that though, one thing what a lot of people don't even realize is like you have your home office. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, it's like they have no problem going out and spending $1,000, $1,500 a month on an office space. Well, what if you apply that to your mortgage? Like imagine how much bigger of a house could you buy if you added $1,000? Like
100%.
Crazy, just crazy. Now you're talking about divorce and Tony Robbins. So I went to the internet, and the Googles tells me that your boyfriend there, other boyfriend, you got a lot of them, Jeff Bezos, $35 billion in that settlement. $35 billion. But you know what? Bezos being Bezos and really not giving a crap at all because he's Jeff Bezos. Do you know how much money he made in 2020?
No, but it's an insane number. What is it?
$75 billion.
Yeah. The year that he got divorced, his net worth increased $2 billion. The year that he got divorced after he cut it in half. No joke. That's the kind of money that he made. So there you go.
Crazy.
If we could all have that. We could all have that.
Hey, I've got a question that I just want to tie into because you talked about learning and stuff. But before I go there, this has been bugging me all weekend. So I have to get this off my chest. Okay.
Yeah, go.
So I see this trailer for this new TV series coming out, and it's about this guy, and he runs a hockey rink, but he never made it himself as the big shoots, like the big shooter, and he never made it to the big dance. Did Emilio Estevez reach out to you when they were doing the new Mighty Ducks? Like, is that?
No, he didn't. But you are correct. His story reflects mine because I used to own a hockey rink. So there you go. Got nowhere.
You know what? When theater becomes reality, it was something special. I'm like, man, this is like the story of Karl Bryan. Like, it's unbelievable. Anyway, on that note, this next question, I could have written this myself because I, just like you, love to learn, right? Like, if it's one thing I know about you is you've got podcasts, you've got stuff going all the time, right? Like, it's insane.
Yep.
Like, how do you find the balance between the learning and the doing?
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, great question. Shoots. So look, learning is critical. You just said it, right? Like, and I'm on record of saying I'm addicted to it, and it served me very, very well. And the reason that I'm addicted to it is that again, there's benefits. So I'd like everybody, especially a coach, I really want you to embrace it. The richest people in the world, Bill Gates goes on learning holidays, right? So yeah, I said it a minute ago, like you gotta be able to pick up the shovel, right? Like the far bigger problem, I think, for the average business owner is that they don't do what they actually know, right? Like they're always on the lookout for the next big thing, the shortcut, something to get us from here to there quicker, easier, or more efficiently. I guess otherwise stated as shiny light syndrome. So I think most would be immeasurably further along if they just went to work. Again, if they picked up the freaking shovel with what they actually know. Like an example would be like a business coach picking up the phone before you learn in the morning, right? Which again, I want to make sure I'm on record. Like everybody, you should be reading every day. You should be learning every day. And I hope that you will also become addicted to it. And again, think of the mastery just every single day, a little bit better, a little bit better. But if a business coach just picked up the phone, right, and helped 3 business owners every single day, whether they pay you or not, right, and genuinely show up and like solve problems on those calls or those meetings or whatever the case may be, and you did that for 90 days, it's such a can't miss strategy. Like the goodwill, the referrals, the contracts, the contacts, it would all just come flushing towards you. The problem is that you got to do it for 90 days, and you can't get told to F off and then go, oh my gosh, and have somebody, have a problem that you can't solve, because what's going to happen is you're going to grow. Like the truth is that if you introduce me to a business coach who doesn't have enough leads, I'll introduce you to a business coach that doesn't have enough confidence, right? Because again, if you've got the confidence, why wouldn't you pick up the phone? An example of who you would call, let's say that you're driving by and you see a yard sign, the guy's doing the windows or the guy's painting the house and he's got a yard sign. And then you look at that yard sign and go, my gosh, that could be immeasurably better than what that is, right? And by the way, if they do have the sign out, my question is, are they doing the good neighbor program? Like, are they knocking on 5 doors to the left, 5 doors to the right, and then 10 doors on the opposite side of the street to say, hey, we're doing Dave Smith's house at 777. You live on the street. My crew is here. I'm here. My trucks are here. My equipment's here. If you want to book this week also, we can give you a 25, a 10% discount, whatever. But because I'm already here, right? If you do that, the numbers that they will be earning, they will get a lot of jobs out of that. And more to the point, what about the painting company that doesn't have the sign on the lawn? Those little signs that you probably drive by and completely ignore, they drive business over the course of a year with 100% certainty. So if you do have a client, they're a service-based company, they're doing windows, they're doing landscaping, they're cleaning, whatever it is, and they don't put a sign out the front, they're missing out on business with 100% certainty, even like a really bad sign. But let's get back to the point. You see that sign and you're like, that could be a lot better. Call them and just let them know, right? And they may take your advice. They might tell you to piss off. It's all good. But, call that person and call 3 that actually accept your advice and do this every single day. And by the way, once you start, getting a lot of clients and you're very busy, that's going to be hard to do. And importantly, I'm talking to a new coach. I'm talking to somebody who's looking to grow. I'm not talking to the business coach that's been doing it for a decade, has 15 live clients and doing really well, right? That's not who I'm talking to with this strategy. But that right there, if you're a business coach trying to get up off the ground, you're the airplane stuck on the bitumen, stuck on the tarmac, trying to get it up. This will elevate you. And then all you got to do, if again, you understand the metaphor of getting the plane. Once the plane is in the air, it's so much easier to keep it there, right? But the trick is to get it, lift off is the challenge. So anyway, so that would be an example of something that a business owner could do, or a business coach could do with 100% certainty, have success, right? So, what I'm getting at here, like learning versus doing, I just want to make sure, I don't think the average coach has a problem with learning. I think they have a massive problem with doing, like, Road Dogg kind of outlined here as he posed the question, right? So, ask some high-end questions to get moving. Like, what do I already know that I am not executing on? And by the way, ask your coaching client that exact question. Or, why am I not executing on what I know and that I need to execute? An example, lead generation, what I just said. Why am I not picking up the phone? Why am I scared of picking up the phone to solve these problems and to help these folks and to reach out on Facebook and to reach out on LinkedIn and to reach out on Instagram, etc.? What has me stuck, right? The bottom line, I want to encourage to, stop looking for shortcuts. Like when you're learning, are you looking for a shortcut, or are you looking to build your base at a higher level so that you're, a more established business coach? I would hope that when you're learning, you're looking to build a stronger foundation as opposed to find sort of the shortcut, and then make sure you're doing what it is that and that is already proven to be successful many times over. And again, the coaches that work with us, we've got all kinds of bulletproof strategies that have worked over, years and years and years, that if they follow them, they absolutely work. It's like the coach that can't get, the coach that picks up the phone kind of can't keep up. And then the one that doesn't pick up the phone can't get started. think I'm messing that up a little bit, but you get the idea. Once you do start to do this, your biggest problem will be keeping up, is what I'm trying to bring across there. So make sure that you are managing this, right? Actually, like, I'll give you another example. Okay. I've done this many times with many clients over, decade of doing coaching very, very successfully. When I sit with somebody, and by the way, take me up on this, challenge me here. And if I'm wrong, you let me know, right? But I guarantee I'm not. When you take on a client, I want you to visit what is the number one form of lead generation that they used to do, right? Well, they are no longer doing it. So all you've got to do is reinvigorate that form of lead generation that worked very well in the past to the point where it was their number one form of lead generation. I want you to think about the magic of that, right? All you got to do is explore what is that form of lead generation. Again, establish that they're no longer doing it. Get it back up and running. You'll be blown away. So that the saying that I've said many a times, it works so well, I no longer do it. Very, very common. Anyway, so that's what I'd say. Yeah, it's instant leads, very little brain damage. That's what I'd be encouraging folks to be thinking about. So managing those, but make sure that they are, doing versus just learning.
All right, they're big shoots. Now, the question of the day for me that I have is, I've got a doozy of a question. Do I save it? Because there is a follow-up I want to ask you. Because I've got a couple other questions I could kind of put you on the spot on. How are you doing for time here? How do you want to do this?
Buddy, I got time. So up to you. You're running the show, bud. I'm good with whatever.
Okay. Just because I had a couple of questions from the insiders here come in, and there was one question that I think is very good, because the other one I want to make sure that we have the full time and attention for. So I think we'll put that off for next week. But the question that came in was, somebody had a question in regards to, what does a $500,000 coach look like? How many clients, average dollar sales, staff needs? I think even a better question is, how is a $500,000 coach operating differently than a coach that's doing maybe $100,000? Can you touch on that for a minute? Because I just think that's such a powerful thing.
Yep. Okay. Well, look, I'll tell you, it's not that hard. First of all, you got to get your unit of sale up. That is official. Like, if you've got, 20 clients at $2,000 a month is $480,000 a year. And again, the magic of coaching is we've got huge margins. So really, I don't think that, like, to get 20, but you will have attrition. Road Dog's got attrition. I got attrition. You got attrition. Tony Robbins has attrition. Some people will come and go, and that's okay. But I don't know that the roadmap needs to be changed that much, to get 20 clients at $2,000 a month. So then you might be saying to yourself, yeah, but my clients can't afford $2,000 a month. The solution to that is, you got to do what I just said a minute ago. You got to get really good at coaching. You've got to get really good at moving. You can't buy into the, what's that old adage, my client doesn't do anything, right? Like, my client doesn't listen, yada, yada, yada. No such thing as a bad student. There's only a bad teacher. Okay. So what you've been doing when you've been learning, I would dare say that you're learning and looking for shortcuts. And then the $500,000 a year coach is learning and building a stronger foundation, so that when they take on clients, they can legitimately put money in their bank account. Because that's the solution. If you want to get paid $2,000 a month and you want to get 20 people to do it, you've got to move 20 people so that they're earning, $50,000 comfortably as a result of your advice, right? So that's the X factor. So, and then how would I do it? If I'm the higher, look, how did I do it? I'll just tell you straight up. We have a program called Live Event Mastery. It is bulletproof. I have personally filled over 400 local live events. In fact, Road Dog, you and I did a live event, got 100% conversion in that room. And that's not 100% conversion to appointments. That's 100% conversion to high-end coaching clients. I think one disappeared reasonably short order, but at the end of the day, it was bingo, bango, bungo stuff. So how would I do it? How would I build a $500,000 a year coaching company? First of all, I got to get 20 clients at $2,000 a month, and I'm at $480,000. I'm pretty much there. And I would do my lead gen through live events. And yes, if you're listening to this, depends upon when you are. You might be living through a pandemic and you can't fill rooms. In many places you can, in many places you can't. But in all places, you're going to be able to do it soon, right? So you got we got to be in this for a decade. You can't be the coach trying to work it out for 90 days and then deciding whether or not you're going to continue, right? If that's you, exit stage left, and please let the real dogs, the real coaches, protect the industry and do what we do, right? But that being said, here's what I would do is I would do a local live event. I used to do 3 a day. I'll meet coaches all the time that can't fill 1 a month. And I do 3 a day consistently, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in a week. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm trying to give you guys my roadmap. And I would do an event, and let's assume if you're going to make $500,000 a year, if you could do 1 a week, once every 2 weeks would be suffice. Once a month is on the light side, but it's better than nothing. And you just fill those events. And that the X factor is, don't fill the events and think to yourself, gee, how can I make so much money? I want you to rise up big time and really start thinking about your local community, the local business owners. I want you to be thinking about your, the city, the town, depending upon where you're at, but the town, the city, and then your country potentially if you really want to rise up. The reason you're going to run those events is not so that you can make $500,000. You're going to run those events because success to the people who show up matters to you, whether they pay you or not, right? Like, again, I'll just give you my own example. I write a daily email. The freaking thing is exhausting. Road Dog just, he said earlier, like the podcast, I am, learning and doing. I do a ton of learning, but I also do a ton of doing, right? So, or at least I think so. And there's others that leave me for absolute dead. And there's others that would think that I'm an impressive operator, whatever. I'm just doing my own thing. Here's how I'm doing it. But I am out there, whether you pay me or not. My emails are coming. Whether you pay me or not, I'm going to show up to this podcast and I am going to deliver what I believe to be my best stuff. I'm not sitting here holding back and, conveniently throwing, plugs and throwing sales pitches in left, right, and center. It's the exact opposite approach. Yes, every once in a while, it's like, hey, if you want to work with us, this is how you do it. But and I hope, and again, if you've listened to my podcast, I think I've shown you that. I'm just here to serve at the highest level because I care about the industry. I care about business coaching. I'm thinking about the pie. I'm not thinking about my little slice. Okay. Forget me, back to you. If you're going to make $500,000 a year as a business coach, that's the way I want you to approach it. Right. I don't want you to think, gee, how can I get 20 clients at $2,000 a month and do 480 grand and buy myself a, new BMW, a bigger house, or, maybe it's the Ferrari. Screw that. What I want you to do is I want you to do it because local business owners are depressed. They are getting separated. They are getting divorced. They are getting addicted to booze and drugs and all sorts of other stuff. Why? Because their businesses are failing. And my story, a lot of you know it, a lot of you don't. My big brother committed suicide when I was 16 years old over a business failing. So I know, and I am the poster child. My mother then drank herself to death as a result of self-imposed punishment as a result of that. Right. So I got to tell you, so when you tell me, oh, it's not that's crap. Like, I've lived it. I'm the poster child of the guy who lives in the entrepreneur, the child that lives in the entrepreneur family. And dad's never around and mom's overworked and all the excitement that goes with that. Again, it's not about me. It's about, like, I would like to say that my situation is unique. It is not in any way, shape, or form. And those people that are going to come to your event, roughly 10 at a time, to the Chamber of Commerce or to the golf club or to the yacht club or to the local hotel where you're going to do your live event, those are the people that you are serving. Yes, some will buy from you. But what I want you to do is I want you to elevate them. I want you to give them the type of advice that we deliver here on the podcast and the daily emails to really, really shift them. So maybe a different answer than what you guys might have been expecting. But like, if you want to build a $500,000 business coaching company, it's got to be about far more than you. That's the trap. That's the mistake. Remember, a real mentor is somebody who can tell you what not to do. Any dickhead can show up and expand your to-do list and give you a bunch of stuff, right? New ideas, new strategies, new this, new that. Play subtraction versus addition. That's a real mentor, right? So again, if you want to build a $500,000 a year coaching company, the way that you're going to do it is you are going to serve at such a ridiculously high level. And yes, people are going to pay you as a result of that service, but many aren't. And I don't want you to bat an eyelid, not even a little bit, right? I see I could go on, but I flow through Facebook and then I see my emails in somebody else's Facebook feed. I'm like, hey man, what's going on? I sent that out this morning and I wrote it with my own fingertips, right? Annoying, highly. I don't know, whatever. Am I going to start, am I going to not, here's the approach that I could take. I'm no longer, everybody keeps ripping off my stuff, so I'm not going to do the daily email. Well, no, that wouldn't be certain. If I'm being genuine and I'm worried about the pie and serving all these folks that aren't paying me and some that are, yada yada yada, I wouldn't be honoring that. So, anyways, Road Dog. So that's what I would say. The $500,000 coach has got a purpose significantly beyond themselves, and that's how you get there. And you and I have done it, right? Like we did that local event. We only had a small room, right? There's only 12 people in the room. There were 7 buying units and all 7 bought. Bingo, bango, bongo. So that's how I would build a coaching company. Because what I didn't say here is the live events, and don't do 3 live events and then report back on whether or not they worked, right? Do 10 live events, and then it might be worth doing your numbers at that stage. In other words, like, if you've never done a local live event to small business owners, you're going to suck at it. And even if you don't think you sucked at it, after you've done your 10th, you'll look back at your first and go, oh my God, that was embarrassing, right? So the whole idea is you got to do this consistently over a long period of time. And what will happen is when you really serve and you really deliver, what you're going to find is that the quality of the prospects that will come in the room will be significantly greater. And that's going to be a lot easier for you to go and fetch, $2,000 a month. I know to some coaches that sounds like a lot of money. It's peanuts. We've got coaches that work with us. Look, they charge $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year. We've got them between, coaches that are newbies that are charging less, like $500 a month because they're just starting. And then we got guys that are charging $5,000 a month, well and truly, which is $60,000 a year. And we've got some high end folks that, again, they'll charge 6 figures. They'll charge $100,000 to coach. In fact, if you go back to episode 90, you will see where I opened up a line, we were doing the podcast, and I have a client who bought $100,000 coaching program from me. I can't remember. It's back in 2007, 2008. I think we talked about it. She's still a client today, by the way. She was a veterinarian. My dog died while she was there. It was kind of wild. But the bottom line is that I've charged $100,000, like a decade and a half ago. So we've got those coaches working with us. They're the high end, the unicorns and, the 7-figure types, which we, again, do have them. But more of our coaches are guys that are doing a few hundred grand a year and having a great life. So, bottom line, Road Dog, that is my answer, a $500,000 coach. That's the way I do it. I think that it sounds intimidating to the average bear who's just getting going, but 20 clients at $2,000 a month provide enough value. $2,000 a month is $24,000 a year. It's nothing when you really understand, the stuff that our software provides and teaches and the training, etc. So that's my answer, Shoots. What do you think?
The mindset between $100,000 and $500,000 coach, it's insane. Like that's the difference.
Yeah. Actually, Road Dog, you know what? Hey, I know I'm going to close this off here in a sec, but one thing, actually, I answered this question very differently than I just did. It's a feed that if you search my emails, and it was called Feedback Loop, where basically one of our guys, Scott Hansen, to be specific, probably listening to this. Anyways, he asked me, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think that the example that I gave was, how do you go from $100,000 to $500,000 a year as a business coach? And the answer that I gave was a feedback loop. So I don't know, if you Google my name, Feedback Loop, there's a good chance that the email might pop up. And I definitely answered it on the podcast. So if you search, the titles, hopefully Feedback Loop will maybe be in the title. I don't know. You'd have to check it out. But Feedback Loop, I answered that question very differently than I just did. And I wouldn't be saying it if I didn't think it had massive value. So you might want to have a bit of a look. Google my name, Feedback Loop, and I think you might find it pops up. So there you go, Road Dog. There's my answer, bud.
One thing I'll say is I said this to you. We were out for a drive, and I'd said to you, man, I've never ever cheered for small business as much as I have, especially coming out of this thing. Like, and that's what you got to do. Like, you have to be cheering for small business right now, folks. And just, can I just give a red hot tip here? Like, for all of those people that are leveraging all of the assets that you provide, when you're doing these live events now, because one of our insiders asked the question of, hey, can we do Zoom? Why not do a Zoom and do a live event based on somebody's
Yep.
comfort level? Have both options available.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
when
Yes.
the,
Yes.
the other piece is Carl, inside of LPW, you guys provide the e-learning system where you can put people into, your academy of sorts. And when I look at that, and that's one thing that I started to do was I actually put people on my email list for that leading up to the event. Now imagine if you did that to somebody and they're getting, 4, 6, 7 emails from you before the event. Your as you call it, preeminence, right? Your authority before you even step into the room is increased dramatically, that all of a sudden you are
100%.
like, it's just it's insane.
Well,
so
Road Dog, sorry, I think it would come back to it's the learning and doing. You see, what you just said, to go write a bunch of, they could use hours, but somebody's got to write them up. Like, that takes work. That takes effort, right? But that it's that thing that you're going to go and learn and find the shortcut to put 10 people in the room, or you're just going to pick up the shovel, do the hard work, to make sure that those that do come, you've got a lot of pre-positioning and whatnot, so that they're like, wow, this guy, this gal really knows their stuff. It's hard. It's hard to do, but making money is never easy. What does Charlie Munger say? Business is complicated, and anybody who says it's not complicated is an idiot. And again, I think I'm making a meal of that, but Charlie Munger, basically, that's what he's saying. He's like, do you think business isn't complicated? You're an idiot, right? So, but the good news is that it's complicated, but it's very, very straightforward. So what I think he's saying there is that complicated would be writing the 5 emails. That's hard. But knowing that you need to write the emails is kind of straightforward. You know what I mean? But you know it, but you're not doing it. Instead, you're researching and you're calling it learning, but what you're really doing is you're looking for a shortcut. And I want to stop that. I want to, learning, doing, let's pick up the shovel, as opposed to, try cutting line at the movie theater.
I'll say this.
There you go.
Because you talk about shortcuts, and I'm on the fence on that, because I think there's a difference between a shortcut and a framework. And because you can shortcut by, again, success leaves clues, as we always know, but it's like, if I'm using the LPW tools, there's a lot of frameworks already established. I just have to customize them for me, or just use them as is, because now I'm spending my time on what I really should be doing, which is actually going out and talking to people. Imagine that. But anyways, so I like that. I agree with that. It's, it's not to say you don't look for shortcuts. You don't want to do everything the hard way. Most definitely want to learn from others before you. Now, that's an absolute must. If you make every mistake, you're going to have a long, difficult journey. But you get what I mean. When you're learning, are you building your foundation, or are you searching the cut in the line? And I want to make sure that that foundation is super solid, because that's how you get $2,000 a month clients. You put money into their bank account. It's not about singing Kumbaya and jumping up and down and clapping hands and talking about how blue skies and fluffy clouds and I can't wait to get started and how amazing this is going to be, right? It's about picking up the shovel and making some money. I mean, the number of times, when I coach, I get told this story many a times, when I'm looking after a realtor, I jumped in the car with them, right? I'm wondering, what does a day in the life look like? What are the real challenges? What are the real obstacles? And by learning what I learned, I was able to help other realtors falling off a log, right? So, but it was hard. It was bloody hard work. But remember, it's what you earn versus what you learn. And the more you got to concentrate on what you're learning as opposed to earning. But the good news is, the more you learn, the more you're going to earn. And I know most folks were coaches, so you guys have heard that. But I would just challenge you, is that the existence, over the weekend or the last 3 days prior to listening to this, how much shovel work have you done, and how much learning have you done? And the learning, was it about building the foundation, or was it about cutting in line? So that's enough of that. That's what I'd say, Road Dog. And I'd be curious when the last time was you literally actually picked up a shovel. That would be a whole Anyway, listen, in hockey, they would say, this guy's got soft hands. It's just because he uses a lot of moisturizer. That's all it is. All right. Anything you want to leave us with? Any one thing you want to say from today besides, stay hydrated and moisturize? Anything else?
Anything else? No, I think we said it all at the end there. You know what? And reverse again, how do you find inflection points? Like I said it at the beginning of my answer, but like reverse engineer success. Just build on that, build on the foundation, folks. That's what I'm going to leave everybody with. You're building a house. It's my daughter loves she had a 7-year-old daughter that I read books to pretty much every night, put her to bed. And it's the Three Little Pigs, and it's the straw house, or it's the brick house. Which one are you building? Build the brick house. There you go, Road Dog. That's my answer.
I prefer to build the Roadhouse. Also one of my favorite movies of all time, by the way.
Yeah, I love it.
It's an absolute stud. All right. On that note, thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man on top of the hill, my boy King Karl. And again, if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, or just want more information on how to build your coaching company, visit focused.com and subscribe today. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone you think that might make a great coach. Again, a great salesperson or just a highly motivated type. And of course, as always, we'd appreciate it that if you'd rate this episode, as we know that iTunes and Spotify, they give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So if you like what you heard, please leave us a review. I can't believe it. I can't believe you said that there was like over 90 episodes. This is blowing my mind. But here we go. We march forward. Until next time. Remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.